Committee of the whole is back in order. We're on Chapter 10, the Guam Visitors Bureau. As many of you are aware and have met with the Guam Visitors Bureau members, both the executive manager and the chairman of the board, the anticipated revenue for the next year is 34.5. They've asked for an increase in their marketing budget. They did not get the entire amount that was requested, but we did increase their marketing budget by $4.5 million. And does anybody wish to speak on any part of this section? Or do we want to walk through it section by section? All right, section 1, 100. The appropriation on section 1 comes to about $21,200,000. Does anybody need a explanation on any part of this? Senator Snickless.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we could just have a breakdown of what the FY2014 numbers were with respect to the individual object categories, so that we can compare them to the request here in the FY2015.
Last year in general administration, the appropriation was $2,917,120. General administration has gone up $283,000. Marketing last year was $10,100,000. The proposal here is $13,917,000, or an increase of $3,800,000. Last year, sports and events was $320,000. Oh, I'm sorry, there was no sports and events last year. But there's a request for sports and events this year of $850,000. Research last year received $430,014. This year it's $448,000, about $18,000 increase. Cultural heritage did not have a specific one that we provided for here, but as I understand it, GVB did provide them a substantial, but it's now broken out here of $750,000. Visitor safety is also a new provision that was not provided for last year, and this year is now being provided $950,000. Destination development last year was $1,720,000. This year it's $1,085,000, or a reduction of about $600,000. But the $600,000 in destination development is being taken care of in the parks. Two things: $700,000, $400 for the $400 some for the roadway and beautification, and about $300 for the pool. Destination development is also being taken care of with other kinds of appropriations throughout this. I mean, not so much specific to the way that they used to read it, but when we get to section 3, the Visitors Bureau has supported the appropriations that are listed there to support and promote the distinctive nature of the Chamorro culture. But just for one, anybody else have any questions in one that they would like to have answered or proposed? Senator Nicholas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to put into perspective some of the numbers here that we're looking at with respect to Section 1. First of all, I want to preface my statements by saying that the Guam Visitors Bureau has been doing a tremendous job. Tourism numbers are up. Our economy is doing better as a result of those increase in tourism numbers. Visitor arrivals are critical to the engine of our economy. That being said, I always like to try and put numbers into perspective for the benefit of the body and the listening public so that we can fully understand that there is an opportunity cost when we do make these kind of investments. I wanted to speak specifically to item B, the marketing expenses. Last year we spent about $10.1 million, as you mentioned earlier, and we are now going to be increasing that marketing budget by $3.8 million. That's a 30% increase year over year in the marketing budget. Now, while the intention is to increase marketing in order to increase visitor arrivals, I really wonder whether or not a 30% increase is going to result in 30% more tourists. And absent a ratio of 30% increase in dollars, 30% increase in tourists, we are getting diminishing rates of returns. And so I wanted to take the opportunity to compare this marketing budget that's being proposed to the budget of the government of Guam, because this marketing budget is starting to elevate as a result of more tourism attraction fund TAF revenues coming in and hotel occupancy taxes. But as it elevates, it's also comparative to other agencies in this government, pretty interesting how this marketing budget is just growing as a result of the increase in hotel occupancy taxes. And I wanted to put it into perspective because we need to begin opening our minds to the tourist attraction fund in a different way and investing, I believe, more into destination development that would probably get a better rate of return, not just for the tourism industry, but for our people as well. A $13 million marketing budget, Mr. Chairman, is only $3 million less than the appropriations we're making to the Guam Community College. So of all the general fund appropriations to GCC at $16 million, this marketing budget is almost as much as we are funding the Guam Community College. This marketing budget is more than we are budgeting for Guam Memorial Hospital in the general fund. We are budgeting general fund to the Guam Memorial Hospital $9 million. This marketing budget is $13 million. For Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness, the budget for the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness is $17 million, only $4 million more than the marketing budget for the Guam Visitors Bureau. The Department of Administration is only being appropriated $10 million, $3 million less than the marketing budget of the Guam Visitors Bureau. Our entire Department of Administration is getting $3 million, 30% less than the marketing budget of GVB. The Department of Revenue and Taxation is only being budgeted $11 million. The entire Department of Revenue and Taxation is spending $2 million less than the entire marketing budget of the Guam Visitors Bureau. The Department of Public Works is budgeted for $18 million, and that includes all of our school busing, all of our bus drivers, all of the operations, the Guam Highway operations of the Department of Public Works. And if you take all the agencies from pages 65 to 74, it still would be less than the marketing budget of the Guam Visitors Bureau. The Department of Agriculture is only $3.5 million. The Guam Public Library System is only $1.2 million. The Department of Youth Affairs is only $6 million. Guam EPA, $1.1 million. Department of Labor, $1.8 million. Department of Parks and Recreation, $4 million. And when you add all those agencies up, it still is less than the marketing budget of the Guam Visitors Bureau. Now, I understand the need for us to market our destination. That's very, very important, and that is the lifeblood of our tourism-based economy. But we need to begin evaluating the investments that we're making in marketing as it relates to the overall operations of the entire government of Guam. I believe that we need to begin understanding to a greater extent that we need to have a one government mentality when it comes to spending throughout these various funds, whether it's the Tourist Attraction Fund, the Highway Fund, the Healthy Futures Fund, the Territorial Educational Facilities Fund. All of these still constitute the underlying revenue base of the government of Guam. So while the investments in the Visitors Bureau and the Tourist Attraction Fund are important and marketing is important, a 30% increase in the marketing budget for GVB, I think, needs to be weighed considerably with respect to all of the other needs throughout the government. And I bring this up because as we have more hotels coming online, as we increase our rooms and our occupancy, and as we increase more revenue into the Tourist Attraction Fund through those hotel occupancy taxes, I would like for us to be mindful of the fact that it shouldn't just automatically get tossed into more spending that's all Tourist Attraction Fund related, limited only to marketing or all of the other priorities outlined in the existing Tourist Attraction Fund. Those dollars need to start spilling over into other agencies that are aligned with the mission of the tourists, of our visitors, but also for the benefit of our people. Agencies like Parks and Recreation, for example. So I wanted to kind of just go through the numbers and put that into perspective as we discuss this budget, because a $13 million marketing budget, a 30% increase year over year, after we're doing really great with 10 million, but a 30% increase for this year, you know, what exactly are we anticipating the return on that investment is going to be, and how does that compare to the overall other priorities as they relate on a dollar-for-dollar basis to the marketing budget of this individual agency? I think that it would be healthy for us to begin putting that into greater perspective. That being said, again, I would like to reiterate my admiration for the good work of the Guam Visitors Bureau. But I also am, I'm the kind of senator that I'm not very I don't have a silo mentality. I don't like to look at things within their own confines. I think that we need to begin looking at how each of these different things can help be supporting the other. And so this marketing budget, with respect to the budgets of all those other things that I mentioned, it's very healthy, but going forward, as we increase our Tourist Attraction Fund revenues, I think that we need to be a bit more broad-minded about how those revenues can spill over and begin supporting other areas in the government that are related to tourism, but also directly benefit our people in terms of the services that they avail of and that they receive. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator Nicholas. Any other senator wish to be heard? Senator Tom Maddow.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman. I share similar concerns to the preceding speaker, and it appears that in the past we've spent in this year's budget, we're spent GVB's entire budget of 21 million. About 85% of that is being used for marketing, and I understand marketing is very important. It's important that they go to the countries where these tourists originate from and basically put on a good marketing program and push them over our way. But then when we take a look at the destination development, put into there, add up the $1 million for destination development, visitor safety and satisfaction, cultural heritage and community outreach. If you add all those up, that represents about 14% of the total budget for GVB. 14% spent towards basically shining up the jewel of that Guam is, so that when people come here, they enjoy themselves and they want to return again because of the experience that they had here. But I just don't know how we can actually achieve that when we just don't spend that much money. Now, I do know that there's funds that's being allocated to the mayor's council and whatnot, and I don't know if we were to total all that up, maybe a couple of $1 million, that would probably bring up then the proportion as to how much we actually expend from the Tourist Attraction Fund for destination development in general to maybe, upwards of, at the very most, 20%. Now, I've heard the discussions from the GVB board chairman, basically listening to his philosophy that he feels that in order for that we don't really want to necessarily cater and attract to the tourists. We want to attract the tourists who will come here and will want to stay for a longer period of time and will spend lots of money here. Not the guy who runs to Kmart to buy the packaged fast foods and then goes to his room, and basically that's what he does. But he believes that in order for us to be able to attract the high spending tourists, we really need to basically shine up this jewel that these tourists come to. And I know that the preceding speaker indicated that the marketing budget is increased by about 30%. And quite frankly, I know that in my discussions with some GVB personnel, they indicated if you were to reduce that marketing budget by $1 million and put it down into destination development, they could live with that. And it's not going to kill the marketing efforts that GVB needs to actually go out there and undertake. And so I would move at this point, and again, where in the marketing will they reduce? Would they reduce the marketing effort to Japan or to the U.S.? I guess that sort of detail can be left to GVB. But that the bottom line is that the appropriation for marketing should be at, let's just round it off, $13 million, and then move that $917,000 down into destination development so that it'll be $1,990,000 or whatever it is. Do the math.
2,000,007.
Okay, thank you very much. So I would make that motion at this point, and then how that additional $900,000 is to be expended towards destination development, then we'll let them do that. But already just last week when we had the status update on the hot bond projects, we already know that to take care of the flood problems that they have down there on San Vitores, the guy already said that, what we can achieve with the money that's been allocated is just not going to be sufficient to really do a good job, and that they would need much, much more. And so, here we got this flooding problem that, hundreds, thousands of tourists are probably going to get plagued with, but we're not spending the kind of money that we need there because we're out too busy pushing tourists over here instead of doing what we need to do here to give them that really good experience so that they want to return. So that when they go back to their point of origin, there are our marketing arms who will go back and tell friends and family, that was such a great experience, you got to go. And I think that we can get a bigger bang for the buck that way. And so that's my motion, Mr. Chairman, is to reduce item Section 1, marketing, by $917,000 and put that amount to destination development, the $1,085,000 plus the $917,000.
On the Tom Adda amendment, Senator Munya Barnes, any other senator after that? Then Senator Snickles.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Vice Speaker, as I can appreciate the statement coming from the retiring speaker, I'm just going to share with you that on page 107, section 29, working closely with the Board of Directors, there is a provision based on the need if there was a need to work with the different categories, that option could be provided based on the programming of what GVB and the Board of Directors have slated. I want to share with you, Mr. Chair, that the Guam Visitors Bureau and its enabling legislation created this public corporation specifically to be separate and apart from and not commingled with the general funds here, but more importantly, as we look today of what our #1 economic driver is and what has given the opportunity for people to be in a workforce. 60% of our workforce comes from the tourist industry. I want to share with you that in our talks of the breakdown in the different categories and why there was a big increase for marketing with the different categories, I'm going to share with you that we added a commitment from China, from Korea, based on the numbers that we've been seeing the tourists coming in, and also knowing the successes that we've started through Russia. And Mr. Chair, you as the vice chair of this agency has worked closely with the committee to share the need and the commitment of why the marketing dollars need specifically to go into those different categories. The flexibility was afforded in Section 29 of this provision, and that if there was a need, I know that the enabling legislation tells us that we have to support the activities that happened here. We have to fix our market, our facilities in order to showcase it to our visiting tourists. But more importantly, we have to make sure that when we go out there, that we put our money where our mouth is. And I'm going to tell you, if you're out of sight, you're out of mind. And you and I know that. We've been to places where we just came back from China as a delegation, and Beijing shared with us saying, you know what? We as a private entity and a government want to share with you, is Guam committed to working with us? Put your money where your mouth was. And we said, yes, we are. We want to make sure that those affluent Chinese travelers come here, and that we know that they can come here, have a place to relax, have a place to shop, have a place to look at the historical sites. And we are fixing our product here. And working closely with the Board of Directors and working closely with the hardworking staff of GVB, this is what they came up with. And I don't want to break that now. So as Oversight Chair, I'm going to share with you that I have reservations about moving that. There have been other fundings that have been able to assist in the infrastructure, but I feel, as Oversight Chair, that this committee has worked diligently with GVB and its board. I'm very satisfied, and I'm just going to respectfully object.
Thank you very much. Senator Nicholas, and then after Senator Nicholas, any other senator wish to be heard? Senator Respicio, Senator Uggan, did your hand go up? Okay. Senator Nicholas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I support Senator Atta's proposed amendment. You know, it's interesting, like when you go online and you see people post things, some of the interesting things that you'll see posted is a marketing picture of a Big Mac, perfectly shaped, perfect patty, everything looks great on the Big Mac. And then they'll post right next to it a picture of the Big Mac that they got in the box that just looks totally awful. Now, we're not that disparate, but the real question becomes, are we going to keep pushing money into marketing dollars when, as Senator Atta his verbiage was very perfect, shining the jewel. If the island needs more investment in order for us to make sure we're living up to those marketing expectations, that's something else also too that we need to consider. And I appreciate Senator Ada's amendment, because by pushing the money into destination development, he's still leaving it within the realm of GVB. They're able to determine what areas on the island need to be prioritized in order to spruce up that actual end product that the consumer is receiving. And we're not telling them where to put that money or how to spend it. We're basically saying focus it on destination development. Invest that money more into the improvements of the community that are going to be related to the tourism industry and how it's going to benefit the mission of GVB. Again, putting it into perspective with respect to the numbers, Madam Chair, is that with this amendment, we're still seeing basically a 30% increase in the marketing budget, because it went from 10.1 million to 13 million as the amendment proposed. It's still a 30% increase. The senator proffering the amendment is just taking the balance on the thousands and moving it down into destination development. So we're still seeing a 30% increase, but what the good senator is effectively doing is he is increasing the destination development in this budget by 50%. By 100%. He's basically doubling the destination development portion of this budget by reducing a fraction of the marketing budget and reallocating it down there. I think this is where prudence comes in as lawmakers, where we can say, you know what, we appreciate the work of GVB. We know they're doing their job very, very well. We are giving them additional resources to continue on the marketing mission, but we also, with our eyes on the entire community, understand that an investment in the entire community as well, an investment in destination development is still a good investment for GVB. And so what we're looking to do is rebalance those investments so that we're still putting a decent amount of money into marketing, but we're also going to be getting a good amount of money into destination development. I think this is a very prudent amendment. I fully support it, and I thank Senator Ada for proffering it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. And I'd just like to remind, please, staff, when you're in here, so you do not block any of our senators, okay? Thank you. Senator Perspicio, you recognize.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, this is certainly a difficult position for any of us to be in. For me, I certainly accept both sides of the argument. I accept the mover of the amendment's rationale that maybe we're spending too much money to market Guam and not spending enough to make sure that there's careful attention being paid to the destination development. But for me, Madam Chair and colleagues, you know, this budget was vetted by the Guam Visitors Bureau Board. Certainly the visitor industry and the stakeholders had a say in how GVB's budget should be for this upcoming fiscal year. We've heard from our oversight chair say that she's worked closely with the industry, and this is something that they're absolutely asking us to support. There's also, as she pointed out, a provision that if these categories need to be tweaked, that they should have that autonomy to do so. But more importantly, this budget was also vetted by the Office of Finance and Budget and the Community Appropriations. And so to just put us in a position where we can arbitrarily say 13.9 million is too much, let's reduce it to 13 million and throw the 917,000 into destination development, I'm not prepared to have that. For me, I'm not prepared to vote on that kind of amendment without hearing from the industry. I'm not suggesting we bring GVB in. For me, I'm comfortable being guided by our oversight chair, who has oversight over the Tourist Attraction Fund. And so we've heard from our oversight chair that this $13.9 million is necessary because they have the different markets, and so these numbers weren't just pulled out of the air. On that, every dollar, I believe, is accounted for based on this budget they're presenting. And so I yield to the oversight chair, and I certainly could not support an amendment that just makes the arbitrary decision to reduce this by $900,000 and put it somewhere else.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Uggan on the amendment.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. You know, I'd like to to first of all recognize that the oversight chair for Tourist Attraction Fund and GVB has certainly done her responsibility, due diligence in terms of preparing a budget that reflects the requirements of our #1 industry here on island. And when you take a look at a lot of these appropriations that the subsequent sections, other than Section 1, we're addressing issues such as cultural development, the language, the preservation of some of our traditional plants and other medicinal elements in our community. And then we also look at $500,000 that was appropriated in a separate section from the TAF for the Guam Museum to further develop that component of presenting to our visitors some of our historical perspectives. But you know, Madam Speaker, this is where I deviate from not only recognizing the hard work of the oversight chair. For many, many years, we've always asked the question whether in fact the people of Guam have taken full ownership and understanding of what the tourism industry brings to our island community. I've heard of figures, direct figures of about 17,000 direct employees being employed by our #1 industry here on island. So for those individuals, and perhaps some of their family members, they have a good understanding of what the direct contribution is of our tourism industry on our island. For our mayors, who are in this budget is allocated in excess of $1 million to be able to continue to maintain our streets and to beautify our island community, they also can share that message. But you know, over the course of this entire process, the last, 12, 13 years of looking at the allocation of resources, now that we have an opportunity to not only increase the budget for marketing and allow GVB to go out there and perhaps refine their message, enhance their message, increase their outreach so that we can bring more visitors to Guam, now we have an opportunity to look at further allocating additional resources to improve the product called Guam, so that the people of Guam can continue to take greater pride and ownership in our #1 industry. You know, I have to commend the chair also, because there are, I believe, 18 additional village signs that are going up in our island villages. My understanding is that the funds originated not only from the hot bonds, but indirectly from the tourism industry through the hot bonds. So you look at that, and that's another component of presenting to our people the benefits of our tourism industry. But taking $900,000 out of a marketing budget that has already been increased by approximately almost $4 million, taking $900,000, reallocating it and keeping it here in Guam so that our children and our existing residents and all of our people can have that greater sense of ownership and appreciation of what tourism continues to bring to our people and to our island community. Madam Speaker, I don't see how I can oppose that. And that's why I started out with that statement that the oversight chair has done her due diligence in communicating with the appropriate individuals at GVB. I'm sure if we had an extra $5 million, they would ask for the entire $5 million, and they would have places to market and to increase their exposure for Guam so that we can bring more visitors to our island. But what about taking just a little bit more of that pie and keeping it here on island so that we can further promote our culture, so that we can further beautify our island, so that we can further reach out to our younger generations and our youth and let them get actively involved in understanding exactly what the true benefits are, economically, socially, and also aesthetically, physically, in terms of the contribution that our tourism industry brings to our island. Anytime that we can get more of our youth and more of our people to understand and appreciate our #1 industry, you're certainly going to find me standing behind that concept. Because guess what? We beautify, we enhance, we improve the product. We've heard that statement that word of mouth is the greatest marketing tool for any visitor that comes to Guam, because they go back home and guess what? They encourage their friends, their family members, or even themselves, they return to Guam and they encourage their friends and family to come to Guam because it's a beautiful island, because we are taking care of our island and we're enhancing the product that our visitors have that opportunity to be able to enjoy. So taking $900,000 out of a projected increase of almost $4 million in marketing, and guess what? Marketing it here in Guam so that it can ultimately benefit our people and our people can appreciate our tourism industry certainly has my support, Madam Speaker. And I hope that by virtue, perhaps, if in fact this amendment passes, by virtue of the communication and the input that the Oversight Chair has, that the $900,000 would be properly applied towards product development, enhancing our island community, and reaching out to our people so that they can have that sense of appreciation, and most importantly, that ownership of our tourism industry and be that much prouder of our island. So I stand in support of the amendment. Thank you very much, Madam.
You're welcome, Senator. Mr. Vice Speaker, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. In the several days that we've been on this is the only opportunity that I've asked that somebody else chair, and I come to discuss a provision. I join my chairman of tourism in objecting to the amendment. I think I want to make it very clear to everybody that when GVB came to us, albeit late, they did request a $6 million increase in their marketing budget. The increases were supposed to be to address the fact that our Japanese market has dropped 9% over the last year. It's an aging market, and they wanted to try to bolster that, to try to make sure that we continue to keep the majority of our, or the bulk of our visitors coming in from Japan. There's a request for $2 million for China, a million for Korea, but whatever it was $6 million. And the chairman and I both agreed in cutting back $1.5 million, but still giving them an increase of $4.5 million in their budgeting request, which was already this $4.5 million increase is 1.5 less than they were requesting. And now we're going to be reducing it by an additional $1 million. I have to object to that, Madam Speaker. And I want to remind everybody, this talk about destination development, on page 5 of this budget, no, on page 8 of this budget, there is a continuing commitment by the Guam Visitors Bureau for destination development in the amount of $6.997819 million a year. That's to pay the hot bond. The hot bond that is building the museum. The hot bond that's putting up the 19 village signs. The hot bond that refurbished the Inarajan Community Center. The hot bond that refurbished the Plaza de España for us, Madam Speaker. The same hot bond that is doing the Campana in Inarajan, and the hot bond that provided us $4 million to put back a historical site in the capital city, in our Guam Legislature Congress building. Talk about a commitment by the Guam Visitors Bureau to assist in product development. There's a commitment of $7 million a year for the next 30 years in this bond. It's the only bond that I voted for since I've been in this legislature. But it's a bond that I, as chairman of that, when I was chairman of tourism, wanted to make sure that we had destination development. And that's what it was. An $82 million bond to try to do destination development, and a bond that we're paying back at $7 million a year. On top of that, when you go back to page 100, there's several $1 million there. The amounts to go to visitor safety and satisfaction. In GVB, in the GPD budget itself, we put $161,000. In parks, we put $700,000 to clean up the roads and the bathrooms that many of us discussed my first term almost 10 years ago. There is a commitment on the part of GVB for destination development. And this idea that that it's siloed and that they're only taking care of themselves, they're taking care of everything. This year we took $1.5 million to fund the municipal mayor's council to assist. In the next 5 pages in this budget, there are at least 20-some groups, nonprofits on this island that are going to be receiving money from the Tourist Attraction Fund to assist in the continued development, the preservation of the culture, and destination development. To make Guam unique, even Guam unique as far as the territorial band that goes off and wins us awards in Australia. A symphony that on island is the only one in the Western Pacific. Even Hawaii lost its. GVB has been very supportive, and that's several $1 million. Destination development, for those of us that have been working on FestPac, Madam Speaker, we have been, I hate to use the word, raiding TAF every year to make sure that Guam shines in 2016. This year we were only able to put out $200,000, but last year we took $1 million into the savings account to try to put together for the FestPac. When you add all that up, from the $7 million for the bond to everything else that's included in this budget, it equals, if not, it's not greater. I didn't have a chance to add them all up, but it would be equal to or greater than the amount of marketing. And everybody has to remember that the marketing is the one that drives, as everybody talked about, 60% of our economy. We would not be the wealthiest American possession in the Western Pacific. And even when I was on GNOC, they were amazed at how much money we were making as compared. The only one that was making more than us was Australia. We were making almost as much as New Zealand was when I was on GNOC. But the other islands couldn't get over how much we were making. And that's because of the tourism industry. And we're making the investment, and I think it's imperative, Madam Speaker, that the marketing budget be supported, because we've got to make sure that we shore up our protections in our marketing in Japan to continue, because we cannot continue to lose 9%. Hawaii has now surpassed us. Well, we used to be, when I was chairman at least, we were doing as well, if not better than Hawaii in share of outbound market from Japan. We just saw yesterday Secretary Work saying that he's going to be supporting our visa waiver. Well, if we're going to get the visa waiver, then we need to bolster our market in China by a couple of million that they were asking for. They're obviously not going to get the full amount since we reduced it 1.5 already. And the Korean market has to be continued to build, and so is the Taiwan market. Madam Speaker, I beg of my colleagues, this funds our economy, and we need to protect it. And we protect the marketing, and we're not doing it at the expense of destination development. Because if you take the $7 million a year in the debt service for the bond, and everything that is provided for in this in the next 5 or 6 pages in this budget, we are taking care of destination development. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome, Mr. Vice Speaker. Senator Morrison, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. Chair, I appreciate the, or Mr. Chair, I appreciate the statements by our previous speakers or the mover of the amendment, but I also want to state that we have really done a good job in putting in good board members, have great expertise in the industry, and rely on them for information to guide us through this process. We've all signed on, I think many of us signed on to the 2020 plan, GVB plan, that basically has a huge goal of attracting 2 million visitors to this island. And that has to correspond with aggressive marketing. And what they have been doing, as stated by previous speakers, is that what they're doing is working. And we're bringing new markets to this island and more visitors to this island. But I go back to the experts who are guiding us with this, and my concerns is if we do move these numbers, I'm not sure what we may be impacting. I'm not clear with that. I know these all are outlined in detail for a specific plan to get us to that goal of 2 million visitors. This is in accordance to a 2020 GVB plan. But again, I appreciate the mover of the amendment. And of course, the oversight chair has done a great job, and I have to commend her. We've been out on a couple destinations, tourist attractions, and bringing out officials to look at areas throughout this island. And I appreciate the work of the administration or GVB who came out and are aggressively looking at areas that the oversight and myself wanted to work on. So they are out there and they are aware of our concerns of destination development. But again, going back to the mover of the amendment, what satisfies me to hopefully keep all these numbers in line is Section 29 is the authority to transfer, and I'm glad the oversight chair pointed that out, because it also makes me wonder when we're out there and going throughout the island and looking at these other tourist destinations to help enhance them or restore them, where's the money going to come from? But at least I have some comfort knowing that with this section, that it gives them some ability or a lot of flexibility to transfer within their operations. And it's very clear that it cannot be transferred into any general administration purposes. So, Mr. Chair, I thank the oversight chair. I also appreciate the mover's amendment and his intent. I think we have to just caution that there's a lot of work being done behind the scenes with the experts in the industry, and I'm just cautious of how we move these numbers around. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Yamashita.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for allowing me the opportunity to speak. I too stand in opposition to the amendment, and I suggest that when we talk about destination development, we consider, as you said, everything that is being invested to develop our destination. Right now, that 1,085,000 cuts and takes care of all the parks from one end of the island to the other. From base to base, that's what pays for the landscaping and the grass cutting. You look at Section 2, A and B, those monies are going to go and take care of bridges and surveillance systems. That's definitely destination development. And then in the next 5 pages, as you and a couple of others have stated, destination development is also in terms of people. So destination development is supporting Duck Duck Goose, the cruise line, the Micronesian chef, the farm for our herbal medicines, that the healing hearts. There's just a lot of ways that this particular fund is definitely already supporting, fostering, and nurturing our island and our people. So the infrastructure, the land, all of that is being invested upon. And I think when you think of marketing, we look at that huge number. I think we also need to remember how expensive it is, how it costs money to do things the way things need to be done in those types of destinies, in those types of places. It just is a high dollar item to do it right. And so putting it on perspective, the investment is needed, but I also suggest that we are doing a good job in investing in our island here at a variety of levels. Infrastructure, future projects, and then in our people as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Speaker.
Thank you very much. Any other senator wish to be heard? If not, the mover will be allowed to close.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I just want to point out about 4 items. First of all, I want everybody to understand that we are not decreasing by $900,000 the budget that GVB will have to operate with. It's being simply shifted from marketing down to destination development, and by that move, it communicates at least what I think should be the priority, that, you know, we can put just 1% more into destination development, then that's important. Now, it was pointed out earlier that there is Section 29, which basically gives GVB the flexibility to be able to transfer from one category to the next, except for administration. So if this amendment passes to then transfer $900,000 from marketing into destination development, and GVB absolutely objects to that, then the next day after this bill is approved, they can go back and transfer it back up again and basically say, never mind you, we'll set the priorities. Well, my motion is basically saying that as policymakers, I think that we need to put more money into destination development. Mention was made about the fact that GVB is committed to destination development to the tune of at least $6.6 million a year in debt service for the hot bonds. Well, that's great. And I never for a minute said that GVB is not committed to ensuring that the product we call Guam, in fact, is something that people want to come back again and again to visit. I never said that. But what I'm saying is that if I can get a penny more to put into destination development, then I'm going to make that effort to do that. And if everybody else disagrees, if it passes here, fine. If at the end GVB disagrees with that and wants to shift it back up to wherever they want, have at it, boys. Now, somebody also mentioned that this amount that it seems like maybe it was arbitrary on my part. I just pulled it out of the air. The $900,000 to shift down was arbitrary. Believe me, it is not. Without mentioning names, you cannot go higher up into the organization or the people that I spoke to who said, if you transfer that much money, it's not going to be a deal breaker. So it's not arbitrary on my part. You know, somebody mentioned about, well, let's leave it to the experts. Yeah, sure. They're experts in what they do, but there's also political dynamics down there which says who gets more for marketing to this destination or to that. And it has nothing to do with technical rationality. It has to do with who's got the political muscle. So it's just kind of ironic, and I think it's sad that we're talking about shifting 4%, 4 cents on the dollar, down towards destination development, and everybody's getting bent out of shape. Good Lord. So, so I guess I just want to close out by saying we are not taking the money away from GVB's operational budget. There is a section in there that says if they don't like the move that was made, you can take that money. They can take everything from destination development and zero that out and throw it all into marketing. They can do that according to the way the bill is written right now. Fine. Then, have at it. And the fact that this amount is being moved is not arbitrary. But I feel strongly, and I believe that we need to put in, if we're putting in a lot into destination development, I think we still need to put in even more. And just a final point, just from that status update that we had last week on the hot bond status, we talk about the museum. We already know from that meeting that the museum project is already $1 million in the hole. It sure could use $900,000 to offset that. We already know that the flood project at San Vitores, right now with the money that they have, it's only enough to dig the hole deeper. But what they really need is to acquire more private property to be able to contain and retain the flood water that they anticipate will be able to come in. Will $900,000 help that commitment become closer to reality? I think it will. So with that, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, I would ask my colleagues to, consider this and support it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The ADA amendment, there's been an objection. All those in favor of the Tom ADA amendment, please indicate by raising your right hand. Motion fails. Any other amendment? Section 2. Any more on Section 1? Thank you. Section 2, capital improvement projects.
I just have a question.
Please, Madam Speaker.
I want to have a better understanding. On A and B, they are identical in the sense of the phase 2 projects and the type of projects. One is an appropriated funds of 637 versus the 775,000 of unappropriated fund balance. Can you just explain to us, if you can, the difference and what maybe fiscal year we're talking about with the unappropriated fund balance? How much is actually that hasn't been appropriated? Do you understand my question?
Yes, I'm just...
Okay, you were giving me a puzzle.
No. The chairman was trying to find her.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I'll take a short recess. Senator Barnes,
Thank you,
will
Mr.
you yield
Chair.
to the question posed by the speaker?
Yes, the reason for the breakdown for sections A and B is to show that on subsection A, it would be the breakdown for the tourist district infrastructure projects, the Humatak Bridge and the Tuman and Aganya Bay Surveillance System, Phase 2 from fiscal year 2015, and item B would be for the remainder for 2014. The carryover.
So the total of 1.3 is being used
1.4,
for
yeah.
the
Yes.
tourist district infrastructure projects, the Humatak Bridge, the Tuman and Nakatnya Bay surveillance systems, and 666,000 is being paid for from the unappropriated fund balance from
From
2014, and 775 is being taken from the
Yeah,
from
and if I can-
2015.
And if I can also note, Mr. Chair, that there will be several provisions in this chapter. Will show a breakdown on sub-items for the different programs, and a couple of those programs that will have an additional appropriations from the 2014
Yeah, I
surplus
understand.
funds and then 2015.
Yeah, but
Right.
So then I think it's important that a statement made to that effect, actually delineating that it is for the 2014. Therefore, if someone's just going to just look at it, could very well think that we're going to be
So on line 4
over-appropriating.
on page 101, it'll be the TAF unappropriated 2014
Yes,
balance.
that would then make a lot of sense. You're right, and have legal counsel say that for the
All
rest
right.
of the sections. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So on section 2, anybody else? Yes. On line 4, 101, the TAF 2014 unappropriated fund balance. And as I understand it, there was also a suggestion that legal counsel make the same amendments throughout the rest of this section. I mean, this chapter. Okay? So on section 2, section 3, appropriation for PAA. Section 4, to Historic and Alahan Foundation. Section 5, to the Pacific War Museum. Section 6, to the Tourism Education Council, 30,000. Wait, who has the handle? Senator Tomata? All right, Tourism Education Council, no object, 6. Section 7, GVB to the Hadza Cultural Preservation, Senator Ada.
Mr. Chairman, no bula na gini na programa siya man sinupuputi ni Tourist Attraction Fund. Magay bula gini uta titizi put no employee paa tau no seswa u magay hu ega and man perform no logwa megay gini ti magay ti gof comprendi na za lekuna man malik na programa lo zahuluke na Jangan pabi supporti pabi comprendi hafasti siya na programa. Por exemplo, hafasti Hadza Cultural Preservation Fund sinanganta out I don't need to tungo tamanus ti ma pronounce no pues jangan pabi supporti ne mas siya debi na be comprendi di hafa na para tagagasta quantos ti 15 meet no o na salapi in comparison than ezi 13 mizon ni para ta fan marketing pues lo zahwa na pabi jangin sina guahaw mo piso hafasti na programa sti i Hadza Cultural Preservation Foundation dangin sina no mazudo kumaprendi.
Do you yield?
Yes, I will. This is a project, Mr. Chair, that has been in the last 3 budget cycles, and it supports the nonprofit organizations that deal with the youth and poetry and the promotion of cultural identity through poetry and other storytelling through the eyes of the youth, and working closely with the high schools here on Guam. It's a nonprofit. It was turned from a school program turned into a nonprofit organization, and it's been in the last 4 budget cycles.
Thank you. Is that satisfactory?
Bueno,
Senator?
shizuch marshe no.
Section 7. Section 8, Micronesian cruise. Section 9, Guam International Film Festival.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
still okay otrina programa no sesra. In fact, no fanan nigya pa no hungo gi K57. Kumekinto sa di tauto ni no gumihilului istina programa sa ikinimprende ko magay gof no bula man angin fanan kada sakkan bula no man maguf ni guahan istinelo magay tu gof comprendi no hafasti no dipusi na programa dangin sinamo na juday no comprendi mas.
The Guam International Film Festival. Do you want to take it? The Guam International Film Festival is a project that has been ongoing. This will be its 4th year. This will be its 4th year. And it promotes films that are shown on Guam from throughout the country, throughout the world, actually. We bring in, well, not we, the GIF brings in movie people, producers, and from all around the world to premiere their films here. There have been Guam films that have been developed. Last year, the Guam film on Litigo Bodik was the outstanding film of the film festival. There have been all kinds of films. It's an attempt to do 2 things. One is to develop the film industry on Guam by giving young filmmakers an opportunity to understand what the possibilities are. And 2, it also promotes Guam because it's promoted in all the different countries through Asia. And last year, there were films from Europe that were brought in and to promote the fact that it is being premiered here on Guam, and in the hopes that at some time in the future, it'll either be the Sundance of Guam or the Cannes of Tumon.
Mr. Chair, if I may just add to that, and I thank you for sharing that because I know that this was one of your favorite parts, but also over 200 submissions or 400 submissions have been coming in from all parts of the world to be a part of the October Film Fest here on Guam. It's become almost better than a signature event for the film industry. As you know, it took Guam, according to the former speaker, maybe over 20 years to try and get the film office opening, but more important, to bring the talents out of our people, our videographers, our all those who are part of the film industry, to the creativeness and the expertise that our people have to be able to showcase not just for Guam but for around the world. And I just want to say that with the inception of this program, and I want to say that the committee and GVB were very, very supportive in bringing this to the forefront, working closely with Gita. We have been met with a lot of leaders, young professionals in this arena, and this year's show tends to probably be one of the more bigger and better and attracting thousands from around the different countries around the world. So submissions from all the way from Europe to as close as Philippines, Japan, Australia, and if I'm not mistaken, even one from New Zealand. And those who had the opportunity to at least look at the show that happened just recently with the support of young professionals here in Guam. A Talent Town was a major hit that showcases Guam's expertise in as far as videography and cinematography, and just the expertise of the film industry here in Guam, and the arts that it proposes to share with the world. Senamas.
Senator Tom, does that satisfy your question?
Yes, yes, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
On Section 9, the Guam International Film Festival. Section 10, GVB, to the Guam Festpac and Folklife Festival Trust account. Section 11, appropriation to the GVB Rainy Day Fund of $200,000. Senator Uggan? Any other senator? Please.
This is Masi, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, and the $200,000 para the deposit yung rainy day fund. That my understanding of rainy day fund to sinya tapatsa. Lo zangin tay esti donya language line number 8, 7 and 8. It says this appropriation shall continue to be available until expended, and shall not be subject to any transfer. So I'm trying to understand exactly where that use of the term until expended. Should that language be retained in there? Because obviously, wouldn't it require the authorization of the legislature to be able to take money out of the rainy day fund, or the board to make that decision?
The decision on this one is the board's. One of the biggest expenses that they had to pay for this last year was flying families back after the Valentine's Day incident, and the use of it to fly witnesses. They, as you saw from the news story, GVB actually assisted the Attorney General's office in the cost of flying back the witnesses in that case.
Okay, no,
So
understandably.
it's-
Understandably, it's just that in this particular case, I think I'm also looking at the figure of $200,000 going into, being directed into a rainy day fund, and which is, in today's dollars, very easy to spend.
It accumulates, and it's used when there is a problem. SARS.
Is there an outstanding balance in that particular account? Or do
As
you know
I
what-
understand it, they had in our meeting about $4 million in the account, of which, in at least the presentation that was made, I'm sure if many of you in your meetings with the board chair and the general manager were also told that a substantial amount of that $4 million was used to try to counter and try to stem the negative publicity that Guam was suffering in Japan as a result of the February incident,
Okay.
and to try to do whatever is necessary to bolster the and to protect the industry locally. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Senator
Chairman.
Limtiaco?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just along the same lines as the retiring speaker, just to get an accurate accounting of the balance of the rainy day fund, and if there's any other funds, savings, certificates of deposits, or any other type of savings account similar to this that exists with the current Guam Visitors Bureau. Can we get an update or a status on those items?
Immediately, probably not, but I will assure you that from my office, I will FOIA for all that information.
Okay, because we went through great lengths at the beginning of the discussion on GVB's budget to make sure that those monies that they are appropriated are correctly spent, whether they're spent on marketing. And I didn't proffer any comments on that. Obviously, we want to let the Visitors Bureau handle and manage their own affairs to their best abilities and their experience, and we want to leave that expertise with them. But having said that, we also want to make sure that that money is being spent and not necessarily saved. Now, I know for the rainy day fund, it makes sense. You've already alluded to what it was used for. But we also just want to make sure that there aren't any other balances out there. I know in the last budget cycle we had talked about a $2.5 million certificate of deposit that was sitting in there, not necessarily associated with the rainy day fund. And once again, it's not to tell them how to do their job. Let them do what they need to do. Let's just make sure that it's being spent for what it was intended to be spent for.
I will make sure that I forward the amount and we'll share it with everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
But that, as I understand it, as it's stated, as a rainy day fund,
It's a
it's for the
set-aside.
very purpose of addressing in the
Emergencies.
event, if there's an emergency like February, SARS, the earthquake. So I will share whatever I get back. And if you can assist me in making sure that I get answered?
But Mr. Chairman, so you're saying that the rainy day fund is not inclusive in the audits that's conducted by the OPA?
Yes.
It is? Okay.
Senator Snickles.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I actually wanted to thank Senator Limtiaco and also reiterate his request for a full accounting of what exactly we have in terms of balances and reserves, perhaps not only of GVB, but of every other agency that potentially could be holding these kind of reserves. You know, for me, my mentality of any kind of revenue that comes into this government is that it's the people's money and we've got to figure out how to prioritize it regardless of where it comes from and regardless of what it's been traditionally used for. Case in point, you know, we have the Guam Police Department that's going to have an overtime balance that we're going to need to deal with. And to know that we have $2.5 million sitting in a CD at the in the tourist attraction fund, while we have a $2 to $3 million overtime balance in the Guam Police Department, all of those kind of things, you know, I sit back and I try to reconcile with myself. How do we make sense of that in a government that's supposed to be meeting its priorities and paying its people, while some places are banking cash and we don't know about it? You know, so I appreciate the request from the senator. I would like to reiterate that as well. And again, I'd like to restate that I think we need to be looking at things a little differently here in terms of, you know, certain things not being sacred cows and being full participatory members of this overall government. I mean, when we, like I said, have an overtime balance and then a CD, I sit back and I say, what is that? And how can we really look our people in the eye and reconcile that? So I thank the good senator for his question. I'm very curious to know as well, not just of this agency, but with all the agencies that potentially have fund balances.
For the information of the members, the staff has pulled up the OPA report audit for 2013, and in it is reported a $1.7 million rainy day fund balance currently. For currently, when they did the audit. So I would imagine that that was down from maybe the 2.5 that had been in there when they had to fly back people in early February 2012, and some of those expenses. But the audit does have that report in it. But I will FOIA them for a full accounting. Okay. Senator Yamashita.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Speaker. I want to chime in here. We've been talking a lot about destination support and the whole notion of what GVB does. And when we met with Carl and his team, we talked a bit about the rainy day fund, and we talked about what it was used for the 212 incident. And my comment to that was, as we helped those families, we didn't do anything to help these families. And while I understand the whole picture, I get it. You know, I really get what was at play and what was at jeopardy. But I asked them to do what they can to also ensure that what was going on here was being supported. And the response was nobody asked. And so now that, you know, when it does happen and it is our families committing this, and there obviously are problems, that we try to figure out, and maybe it isn't necessarily them, but that they make sure that behavioral wellness or public health or GMH or somebody makes sure that that mother was visited and talked to and connected with, because I can only imagine what they are still going through. And he's found guilty and all of that, and he's going to get, I mean, justice has been served, I guess. And then further than that, what I suggested to Carl was the whole behavioral wellness issue. I mean, I hope it doesn't happen again, but my guess is we have a lot of something else will happen, perhaps not to that extreme, but I think that message what we can do for destination development is, that was for me a real wake-up call. And it received so much publicity because it did touch the tourism, and it was international. And for me, it's like we have to accept the fact that we have these mental issues here, and we've got to address them because they're not going to go away. And so I hope that would be one of the takeaways from 212. And so Mr. Pangilinan and his team, listened, and so I think it's good you have a rainy day fund. But anytime it does happen, I hope one of the questions is, and so how about our families here? How did it impact them? And are we connecting the dots for them as well? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator. On the rainy day fund, section 11. Section 12, Humatic Foundation. Senator Agan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I certainly support this appropriation, but my inquiry is more or less, I believe that there was an appropriation made for this fiscal year, and how has that been invested or expended? Because obviously that's going to be in line with the requirement for an additional $50,000, or have they expended the full amount, or they've only expended a small portion, and does that carry over in terms of their allowance to utilize those funds?
Do you yield, Madam Chair?
It was based on the organization and its creation. The funding was utilized based on the master plan that the nonprofit organization created for UMATIC, as UMATIC is a living storyboard of our culture and showcasing that to the tourists who come by and visit them on a daily basis. It is going through that nonprofit organization, and based on their original proposal, I know that they were requesting in the sum of more than what's allotted here today, but based on being able to share with all the programs that have been requested through the committee, we felt that this was at least some help. But the reporting requirements have to be turned in, and the breakdown, I don't have the breakdown with me specifically right now with me, but I can get that to Senator Aguilar.
Oh, please provide it to the chairman if you're able to access that information, Mr. Chairman. Because don't get me mistaken, because I was a proponent and a supporter of that initiative that was proffered by the good senator from Umata previously. And in terms of the previous allocation of $50,000, the last time I was down in UMATIC was about a week ago, and I have yet to see the museum develop or an upgrade in some of the facilities that were initially projected for usage for the museum. So that's one of the reasons why I was asking if, in fact, the amount that was appropriated out of this fiscal year has been expended. If not all, what portion remains, because we're closing the FY. And if they're going to continue to need those resources, plus what is provided in fiscal year 15, then that certainly has to be taken into consideration, because it's an excellent concept. It's sharing the story of Umatak in terms of our history, and certainly that's a part of the presentation of tourism. So I just wanted to make sure that this becomes a work in progress project, that we can actually see the fruition of the investments that the TAF and the people of Guam are making. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Morrison.
Mr. Chair, I just want to share a little bit about what's happening down there. My understanding too as well is that the village is a living, breathing museum, and the Humatak Heritage Museum does have, normally, these foundations, organizations have one mission, but they have several missions, right? And one of them, as we saw outlined last year, was they started the Heritage Youth, basically educating children throughout the villages. Educating children throughout the village, basically having an understanding of all the historical sites. I grew up there, but there's a lot of things I have to still learn about my village. But these children were docents and became very, very knowledgeable about their own village. So I believe a lot of those funds were expended to execute that mission, to allow these youth to start participating within the village. As I said, it is a museum in itself. But the village, this facility, was more of the essential focus for as far as any type of heritage or display, as far as anything outside of something that you will see with the heritage youth. But again, I know there's a lot of plans ongoing as we speak. There is a lot of partnerships taking place. This money has been a great seed money to help. There's a lot of work to be done with this school. It's not just that one area for the museum. The whole structure is historical. And I think there's a lot of players involved, Preservation Trust, historical preservation involved with the planning of not only the museum, but the whole facility structure. So the update I got was that they're hoping by early next year there'll be some groundbreakings taking place to include the Heritage Museum.
Thank you. Is that
Mr. Chair, I just want to note for the record, if I may, that based on the Discovery Day that just happened, there was a full exhibition partnering with the Guam Preservation Trust and working closely with the tourist industry and the tourists that went down to go visit the exhibition, and that was all part of the mandate also. We do have the financial reports, and we will submit it to OFB, to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Senator Ogden, is that satisfactory? Any further discussion on Section 12? Section 13, Amot Tautano. Senator Limtiaco. Okay. Anyone? 13. Section 14, 25 to Breaking the Cycle, Inc. Senator Tom Adda, Senator San Nicolas.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, again, if I can get a brief explanation of what this program is. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, this program for Breaking the Cycle, Inc. is a part of a pilot program working with the high school students around the island. In reference, it's called Taltamona Farms also, where the students come out and start their own farming and gardening as they get the institutional knowledge of going back to the basics of growing and planting and sharing. But what this has evolved into was that the students from the couple of the different schools, especially down in the south, will have a program where the tourists, similar to the Amot Farms, Amot Tautano Farms, but this portion coming from the youth perspective and working closely with a couple of the high schools on Guam, both public and those within the different villages. So Breaking the Cycle is a new project, and we hope to have the full partnership with GVB and the schools within the next year, within this coming year. But it's in its planting stage, planting the seeds already.
Senator Tom, is that sufficient?
Thank you very much.
Senator Nicholas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It sounds like a great undertaking. I have not seen any plans, or is this going to buy seeds? Is this going to a specific class that's going to be hosting these things, or is it going to student organizations? And how is it being divided by each school?
No. And
then how are we going to be measuring the success of the program or the project? Because, I bring this up, Mr. Chairman, because as these new things pop up and they get funded, they stay. We see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 10 pages of different things now that we're all funding in individual programs. So for me, I mean, you know, the things that we have been funding, I kind of step back on those because those have been roads that I have not been down, and so I cannot speak as to whether or not the investment and the expectations were clear and are being, you know, repeatedly measured. But for something new, I definitely got to ask, you know, where's the plan on this? How does it get rolled out? How do we measure its success? And is this going to be another permanent line item on the appropriation schedule? If I could pose those questions to the chair.
Mr. Chair, if I may, thank you for that question. As in a lot of the programs that first get initiated when this plan came to us, it was a collaboration with this nonprofit organization called Breaking the Cycle, Inc., building upon what they now have called Taltamona Farms Project, which is a bunch of community and high school students have come together to build a farm, working closely with high schools. And I don't want to limit it to one high school because I'm not sure which high school it is, but I do know that one of the high schools is Southern High. And the students there that are in this nonprofit organization have already started the planting and the building of this area. And what it was once the planting was ready to harvest and everything was put in place, that they were going to start showcasing and inviting tourists to come and visit. As in anything that gets started, the plan came to us because it was bringing the students, the schools, as a pilot project, working closely with the tourism industry and bringing that, also hoping that the products that come out of this will work closely to selling the products to the hotel industry or the tourist industry, because as you know, the hotels need a lot of the fruits and vegetables that are being planted by our farmers. And this is one event that has evolved into working with this nonprofit organization. So that's what it is.
Senator Nicholas.
I appreciate that. I'm a graduate of Southern High School, so of course I would love the notion of supporting my alma mater is always very, very, attractive. But I need to understand, is there a business plan in place for this, or is there some kind of program? I mean, could I be provided that? I would like to understand if this is going to be sustainable. And I ask this because as we go forward, there's another line item here on page 106 that I will be discussing, where I raise the same concerns. And in the interest of being consistent, regardless of whether it's my alma mater or not, it would be imprudent of me to just, move forward with this new expense item without fully understanding if it's going to be sustainable or if it's going to eventually be taken off the dependency roles and running on its own. And if those plans are in place, if we could review them to make sure that we're investing in something that's going to be able to be a success.
Yes, Mr. Chair, there is a plan, and I will provide it to the committee.
Thank you very much. Anybody else on section 14? Section 15, the Micronesian Chefs Association. Section 16, appropriation to Manhita Tamoro. Senator Nicholas. Section 17, Hurao Academy. Section 18, Inetnagapagu Cultural Arts Program. Section 19, to the Guam Humanities Council. You have an
Section
amendment?
19, I do apologize, Mr. Chair, if I may. There is a proposed amendment on the for the Guam Humanities Council, and that 20,000 is, instead of it going into operations, that the intent is for it to do the programs and projects with CAHA. I do apologize. I just remembered. So it is just to delete the word operations and put programs and projects. And
On the Munya Barnes amendment? Section 20 to the Guam Symphony Society. To the Guam Unique Merchandise and Arts.
the duty-free program that takes,
Hold on. We'll recognize Senator Adda to ask his question, and you will hopefully yield and respond.
My question is to understand what is this organization?
GUMA was a nonprofit that was started a few years ago. It was an attempt, well, actually, it's a collaboration between DFS and a nonprofit on Guam to try to take our artisans and help take them to the next level by teaching them how to market, how to be able to sell their products at DFS. If you go into DFS, there's a section in the back near the liquor where they're selling products that are done by Guam artisans, this is in DFS has invested a considerable amount of money on their part to assist the local artisans know what the Japanese, more the Japanese market wants, how to be able to produce it, and what it is that they can do to support this new industry. Okay.
Okay.
Section 21. Section 22, Duk Duk. Senator Sinicolas and Senator Limtiaco. Senator Limtiaco, you can start. Oh, wait, let's send Senator Sinicolas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was hoping Senator Limtiaco would take the lead. I'll go ahead. This is another appropriation to this organization. I know we gave them over $100,000 in our last fiscal year budget, Mr. Chairman, and I raised the concern about a business plan, about its sustainability, about how it was going to be able to continue without additional subsidies. I was told that those things were in existence. I haven't seen them yet. With respect to the work product, I haven't seen it. There probably is something, but I don't know. But this is going on to this is now going to be going up to $150,000 of the people's money that we would have put into this organization to produce something. And you know, when we spend the people's money, I for one would like for it to actually get to the people and be readily available to them. I search on YouTube. I don't find these videos. They're not publicly available. I don't know where I can get myself a copy. So I mean, we're going to continue to fund the operation of this, and what has our initial investment rendered? What are the people able to avail themselves of on the initial $100,000 that we've invested, and what can we look forward to in the additional $50,000 that's now being asked to be invested again for this fiscal year?
I don't know if all the members, there was a big rollout on Sorensen PNC.
yes, it was. There was,
and there was also a rollout and a showing of the productions on PBS both. I saw the promotions that were done for Sorensen. It was, I think, Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday or something. But But they did several of them on Channel 7, or
And-
whatever that channel is, and also on PBS. I watched them on those channels also.
And they're to complete 18 episodes with local children, teaching, it's a children's program, Mr. Chair. And as you noted, those programs started to come out. There was a commitment to work closely with the public broadcasting system, but there may have been a hiccup there. But based on also the partnerships that are coming into play and the need to finish the completion of all 18 episodes for 2015, this is just, again, a very small fraction of the budget that is needed to help complete. So in our efforts to promoting children's program, all those who grew up with Sesame Street, Electric Company, Weebles, all those children, Clifford the Red Dog, you can relate to this program, the Duke Nihi program, also known as Duke Goose Inc., to have a locally owned children's program, and that it will be seen also with the works of GVB in the hotels.
I was supportive until you talked about the fact that for those of us that grew up without television, before television.
If you, yes, and if you type in DUK, GOOSE on Guam, it pops up. The different segments are here.
We can watch the individual episodes on the.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
If we can, I'd like to review those, and also get the word out to the public, because we've invested thousands of dollars, and I know that the programs ran on TV a couple times, but aside from that, I had no idea that we had all these other resources available.
Okay. Thank you. Senator
Yeah.
Limtiaco.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And, we just want to go back to last year's budget when we had discussed this appropriation and make sure that we separate and bifurcate the two issues, right? We understand the good intentions of what this effort was supposed to do, and nobody disputed that. Everybody understood that it was a good cause. What we wanted to make sure, and we're hoping that the chair of the committee would also ensure, is that the money that was appropriated would result in the products that they had committed to. And that's the only concern, because we are appropriating taxpayer money. And although I don't agree with how it was pursued in the first place, because I felt that it should have been a solicitation, not just pick a company and give them money type of a scenario, which is what happened. But going back to what the commitment was, and I apologize, I don't remember to the detail what was said, but I do recall that there was a set amount of episodes that needed to be produced, that it would be made available on YouTube. I think it was so that the mayor's office and those that didn't have access to the internet or TV would be able to watch these educational Chamorro videos at the mayor's office for the exact same purpose that it was portrayed to us that it should be done. And so Senator Yamashita is right. If you go onto the internet and you search under Duk Goose, one of the first things that comes up is their Facebook site. And if you go to their Facebook site, the last activity on the Facebook site, the last post, was November 2013. That was right around when the budget appropriation would be made available. If you go to YouTube, I can't seem to find any videos of it. Now, I saw the videos. I made sure to tune in to KGTF, and I got to admit, these were well produced and they were informative, and I got my children to watch them as well. So once again, let's bifurcate the issues. The cause, great cause. Effective, absolutely, but did the taxpayers get their money's worth? And I think that the chair, if she would yield, if she could just update us on whether or not those commitments were met. Because when we go onto YouTube, I find some rap videos about Duck Goose. I don't think that that's the one I should be watching. It should be something else, and I can't seem to find it.
Mr.
And I'm concerned
Chair,
that the activity on the Facebook site was what would be approaching a year. And there's no other further activity. So I'm concerned of where the money has been spent.
All right, thank you very much, Senator. Madam Chair.
Mr. Chair, based on the commitment, the Tuk Tuk Goose Inc. through the with the NII project is in post-production right now. The commitment was to provide a video setting of the episodes that have been completed and finished and aired with the media partners after it went on air with the media partners, that it would go to the libraries here in Guam, and also that a copy, because it came from the Tourist Attraction Fund, that a set will go to the Guam Visitors Bureau. Also, in its continuing efforts to promote this, they continue to work with the stakeholders in the tourist industry to make sure that these programs get aired, because one of the surveys that came up was having programs for children in the hotel room. So that's something that's being worked on right now. And that commitment to making sure that it will be delivered to the Guam Visitors Bureau and to the Guam Library, that commitment will be adhered to once everything's done with all the post-productions.
Okay, so we're going to just continue to appropriate money until it gets done? Is that the intent?
No, Mr. Chair, that's not the intent. The intent was based on the additional funding that was needed and the overall proposal. We didn't even, in our efforts to promote and support children's local programming, we gave them a fraction and continued to give them a fraction of what was needed for the whole production for all 18 episodes plus. And I'd be more than glad to provide again to you, Mr. Chair, the full complete disclosure to the committee for record keeping.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to go back, Senator Uggan had brought up, and we had talked about GVB's budget as well, right? It was just to ensure that, yes, okay, the money is appropriated, fine. Let's just make sure that it's being spent, and to execute on that expenditure. Senator Uggan had brought up the Humatic appropriation, the $50,000 to the Humatic Foundation, just to ensure, because he had been down there recently to visit to see if there's been any activity. So it behooves us to make sure that we are making sure that the money that's being appropriated, just like we would in any other line item on the budget, is being expended for what it was intended to. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Nicholas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the chair brings up that this is a fraction of what's needed. What's the whole? How much are we going to eventually appropriate to Duck Duck Goose to produce these 18 episodes?
To yield. As if my recollection was, they were also supposed to try to get private donations, and I'm not sure what the arrangement was with Sorensen, but I know that when they were doing the promotion with Sorensen, it sounded like they had been it had been taken up as a cause by PNC or the Sorensen Broadcasting Network, or whatever it's called, because it ran several weekends on their show with quite a big promo leading up to it. I was surprised that it ran there before I saw it on PBS, but I saw them both.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just curious exactly what the dollar amount's going to come out to for this project. At 18 episodes, already at $150,000, we're spending $8,333 per episode. So
I'm on another board, they're not receiving any money here. This is with a new filmmaker in the States, and I can assure you that this would not have even done. I think we spent more when we did the DYA production than we did on this one, and I think we did two. Well, you were there, right? With Alex? Which one? Yeah. And so it's costly. It's, I think, even trying to do our commercials, you know how much that's going to run. It's substantial.
And the reason why I'm asking these questions, Mr. Chairman, is because, I mean, and with respect to all of these different itemized appropriations is, for me, it's not quite clear exactly how do you get on this list of being able to all of a sudden start tapping into the tourist attraction fund. You know, how did this organization versus some other organization, I'm sure we have a ton of talented people out there who would love to be able to produce things that we could show to our tourists or can promote our culture, but how did these guys, how do you get on a list here to be able to get this kind of special funding and to be able to get this kind of support? Because granted, maybe $8,333 is only a fraction of the total cost, but it's $8,000 more than everybody else out there who might have wanted to produce something. So, I mean, that, Mr. Chairman, that's why I raise these concerns. I mean, it's not just a question of whether or not it's, you know, it costs way more than what we're appropriating, but we're appropriating the people's money for these projects. And how are we going about basically determining that this is a project that should be appropriated for versus some other project or some other person? Do we put out invitations for bid? Do we get people to compete and the best producer gets 5 episodes? I mean, you know, so these are a lot of concerns that are just kind of gnawing at me, Mr. Chairman, with respect to how we go about this. Because, you know, as with the break the cycle, and with this year and last year with this duck duck goose, I mean, we just have all these new things creeping up that are tapping into the tourist attraction fund. I'm not quite sure how they get on this list, but I mean, is this just something that we are going to be expected to accept is going to happen in perpetuity as the hotel occupancy taxes increase? There's going to be some new project that's going to get funded every fiscal year, and you know, we're going to have to yield to the idea that, oh, it's good for the culture, or oh, it's promoting this, or oh, it's less expensive than that. I mean, we need to be a little bit more accountable, I think, to how we're spending the people's money. And granted, those feel-good reasons and those cost-comparative reasons are legitimate. Those reasons will exist in perpetuity, and we can always find that reason to move forward with some new project. So how are we going about doing this exactly? And are we ever going to say that we're doing enough, or are we always going to just keep finding something new to the point where, you know, we might as well just make it be a percentage of the GVB budget, and then we can have some kind of competitive grant process versus this itemized, you know, seemingly random determination. Mr. Chairman.
Excellent idea, actually.
Mr. Chair, if I may, on a point of information, can I?
Please.
Based on the enabling legislature and what our senators, when they first created the Tourist Attraction Fund and the Guam Visitors Bureau, the idea was to support and local activities that support and perpetuate and preserve our Chamorro culture, our Chamorro history, our Chamorro language, everything that is Chamorro. And we as policymakers, that provision was given to us to create. And as we continue to see new programs that come into here, into this August body, and that comes into the committee, and we see that it's good and it meets the mandate of what was created by law, then that is the job of what the committee is working with right now. The main mandate of the law is to provide and support local activities that protect, preserve, educate all that is locally Chamorro.
Thank you very much. But it is an excellent idea, but we'll have to work on that, I think. Did you wish to speak, Senator Morrison?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just want to ask a quick question, because I was talking to a colleague and seeing one of the productions. I didn't watch all the productions or the episodes, but it seems very, very educational as well too. And I'm not sure if there's already been some work being done to incorporate this into the educational system, or somewhere throughout the other agencies where this could also seem fit and also gets funding support as well. So, you know, I understand the sentiments of the previous speakers on the accountability of this, but at least we can point to the progress they've made and also see where it can also integrate this program into agencies that they're clearly justified.
Thank you very much, Senator Morrison. Any other senator wish to be heard? Section 22. Section 23.
Johnny
Inacultura Incorporated.
That's Johnny Sablon's nonprofit organization to support young musicians on Guam and to the rest of North America for now. The Johnny Sablon program.
Senator Limtiaco.
Yeah, and just once again, what exactly does it do? Does it, if we can just get some background on it, does it, how does it go about supporting local musicians?
And
Madam Chair.
they too have their vision to supporting young local artists, bringing out their talent, creating, I guess, musical soundtracks, and then also promoting them to Guam and to the rest of the North American and Asian region as young artists, promoting local music from local singers.
Anybody else? Section 23. Section 24, GVB for Ifanalayan.
Por favor, no, Mr. Chairman, hafas di Fanalayan na programa.
That's the chant group headed up by Leonard Iriarte in the black wraparounds with the orange outfits.
Oh, okay.
Section 24. Section 25, Azuda Foundation.
No objection.
Hafas di Azuda Foundation, por favor. Dan hafas di man mofona
Imanmofuna Nalati.
nalati.
It's a project, it's an educational project to promote, I believe it's the Lati, the Lati village that they found down by Litetsan, and to do a whole educational program for the schools and for tourists. Oh, you. Section 25. 26. TASA.
Mr. Chairman, hafas na diferensya di Itasha dan Itashi. Ini nagbaon gay ono ipo yo trugay agat na. Ezwa ano na diferensya?
And they're both working on building a sakpan.
Okay.
And
Iminagahid no, Mr. Chairman. Angin para be soangan office in Teku puristi go oko magay na uli isti 50 mit pomanay papa igef pago sabgwahagi siya no man matsutsutsu man mafatugi siya tourist man mamatitinas pan dan todo jo lo magay isti Stefanan quantos anos isti didit sedbi isti na organisasyon. Dan itat na yung makumbida jo pabi mauday gi sakman. Lopez Bueno ang ginano malago mizo ni pero tasupotis dira para tatungo por sakman pes bueno.
Senator
Tana klaro didi ihot no giza in lahan. Pamatinas pan. Gi ihot no giza in lahan.
Senator Nicholas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And as was raised by the retiring speaker, it just reinforces the point. I mean, if both are building a SACMAN and there's really no difference between the two, then shouldn't we be going through some kind of competitive determination process and maybe giving the best provider or the best plan $50,000? Or are we going to give a third organization next year another $25,000 because they're going to go and build a SACMAN someplace else? I mean, you know, that's why we need to begin, I think, looking at this very differently in terms of what it is we're really trying to achieve, how we're going to be investing to achieve what it is we're trying to achieve, and how we're going to be measuring the outcomes. I mean, this section 26 and 27, I mean, I really don't quite know what to make of it. They're both pretty much the same thing, two different organizations.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just add one more item. I really fully anticipate that within the next year, probably GVB is going to be getting a solicitation from the group out of San Diego that's building a SACMAN, or actually they already built it, and they plan to sail it to Guam. And they're probably going to be asking for support also. So now there's your third SACMAN group.
Mr. Chair, if I may, that group with the Bora twins have come to the committee and are working closely with the TASI and TASA organization as they prepare to try and sell the vessel to Guam from San Diego in the efforts to showcase it for the 2016 Festival of the Arts. So the committee has come, and working closely with both committees in their collaboration to work together as one unified Guam, we have decided to at least support both nonprofit organizations equally in their efforts to showcase the vessels, the seafaring vessels for the 2016 Festival of the Arts, and and for the tourists who come and see the vessels at both IPA and here at the Hagatna Marina.
Anything? Yes. 18. When you're out of the room. 26, 27, 28, the service and reporting requirements. Any?
Mr. Chair.
Oh, Senator Nicholas.
Yeah,
I kept looking up. I was figuring.
No, yeah, sorry. I just wanted to kind of put this section into perspective because this is 10 hours per 1,000. That means that GVB should be getting 250 hours from TASI, 250 hours from TASA, 150 hours from Matsuda, 250 hours from Ifenlayan, 250 hours from Ikutura, 500 hours from Duck Duck Goose, 250 hours from the Guam Unique Merchandise and the Arts, 250 hours from the Guam Symphony Society, 200 hours from the Guam Humanities Council, 250 hours from Inet Nungef Pakgu, 500 hours from Hurao, 500 hours from Manhita Chamorro. I already lost count. I want to add up the hours. But those are thousands and thousands of hours, and I'm just curious, how are we managing those hours? How are we accounting for those hours? And how are we making sure that Section A is being adhered to?
Do you wish to yield? Okay. As many of you have seen in many of the things that are happening throughout the island, I mean, when we had the state funeral, they did not charge to come and make the presentation. When the governor has events up at the house, state dinners, and they perform both the symphony and the tautotano and whichever chant groups they want. They have been told you shall assist in providing the whether or not it comes out in a year that it's actually the 1 hour for every 1,000. I don't know, but I do know that they are being drafted to assist.
No, I understand, Mr. Chairman. The reason why I ask is because there are some organizations that I see on a very consistent basis doing a lot of public community service, but there are a lot of others that I've never seen before. I never see. And that's why I'm asking, how are they being accounted for? Is there some kind of list that we can look at where we can see the event, we can see the organization, and we can see the how they've earned those hours with the number of people that participated, for example. And the reason why I ask is because there are some organizations here on this list who go out of their way to really produce and be there for our public events. Like in the case for our late colleague, I thought it was just incredible how the turnout was there for that. But those groups that we saw there that day are actually a lot of the groups that are very, very consistent in being present at many other occasions. But in the interest of fairness, and that's the reason why I'm questioning about the accounting of it, is for all of these other groups, and how are we exactly measuring that, and how are we keeping track of it? Because that's again a way of us getting some kind of a return on this investment from the people's money into these organizations.
Maybe we can get Senator McCready, since he successfully got the amendment through for the OPA to make more service audits. All right. On the service and reporting requirements. Authority to transfer, Senator Respicio.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, about an hour ago, this body made the collective argument about the need to have a strong marketing campaign and also a need to preserve the destination development. And given how this Section 29 is being proffered, it's quite possible that they could just, whatever we pass, they could even zero out all these appropriations to the various nonprofit organizations. So I move on page 107, line 26, to add, after the word transfer, to add up to 15% of, so that they would be limited to only transferring 15%, and it's consistent with the governor's transfer authority. And I did speak with Senator Barnes, and she's okay.
On the Respicio amendment to put in 15%, up to 15% after transfer funds on line 26. Any senator wish to be heard on that? That's equal to the amount that we're giving to the governor? Percentage-wise. It's been a long day. Would everybody object if we recess and start at miscellaneous? 9 o'clock. Thank you.